Hey everyone, I'm Richard, and I just want to share with you some tips for learning from webinars. I have a bunch of webinars that I'm offering over the starts in a few hours, and these are the tips I usually share with people at the beginning of my webinars, and I want to share with everyone because these apply to any webinar that you might take. If you want to get more out of a webinar experience, there's a few things you can do to make it better for you. First of all, you can get rid of your dog Max, who's banging around in the background. But on a serious note, one of the things that I always do when I'm participating in webinars as a learner is I have a physical notebook out. In fact, here's a notebook that I'm currently using. I have lots of notebooks that I go through every year, but this is the one that I currently use, and I actually take physical notes in my notebook, which seems counterintuitive because you're taking a webinar and you would think, oh, I just write it in a different browser tab. But I find that it actually works out better for me if I'm writing notes on paper and I can go back and consult them later. One of the other things that really helps me learn from webinars, and I will fully admit, when I first started using webinars or taking webinars, participating in webinars years ago, I didn't get it at first. One of the things that's really helped me is I disable all other tabs in my browser window. That way I'm focused on the webinar itself. And if I'm watching the recording or I'm listening to the recording of it, that's the only thing that I'm doing right then. I don't answer email while I'm participating in the webinar. I don't write a blog post while I'm listening to a webinar in the background or feed my daughter while I'm listening to a webinar in the background, because you don't get as much out of it. I mean, you wouldn't go into a classroom and bring your child with you and think, oh, I can learn just as much while I'm taking care of my infant child. So you have to apply the same thing to webinars as well. And the last thing that I recommend everyone do in a webinar, even if you get into the webinar and you think, I've got this, I understand this topic, try to ask a question. And the reason I always say try to ask a question, even if you think you already have a handle on the topic, is the presenter might give you a slightly different answer than what you were expecting. It forces you to really engage when you're thinking, okay, what's the question I can ask about this topic? I want to get the most value out of this webinar, out of my time. I'm going to ask a question. Even if I think I already know the answer, I'm still going to ask the question. It'll either confirm what I already knew or it will take my thinking in a different direction. So those are a few tips for getting the most out of a webinar experience, both live and in recorded fashion. If you're interested in taking one of my webinars, you can check them out at practicaledtech.com. I have one starting at 3 o'clock this afternoon, 3 o'clock Eastern time this afternoon, and I'm running a bunch all summer long. So thanks.